Let me start with the left's racism in this culture wars segment. In Britain, for instance, the mayor of London's his official website, has put out a guide on how to portray London City that warned that a white family doesn't represent real Londoners. He's now distanced himself from that blamed stuff, but he has since complained that too many white men do run London's transport. Then there's the actor who complained that even the royal family is too white, terribly white.
We've gone from the rich diversity of the Abbey to a terribly white balcony. I'm very struck by that.
And now the English women's soccer team is too white too, says black businessman Wilfred Emmanuel Jones on Britain's Sky News.
It isn't that diverse. It really sticks out at you that, they're all they look blonde, blue-eyed. But there is something we need to look at is why is it...
What do you think it is?
I don't know.
Joining me is Rowan Dean, editor of Spectator Australia, host of Outsiders here on Sky News every Sunday at 9 p.m. And let me apologise in advance for his whiteness. Rowan, this hostility to whiteness is quite extraordinary.
It is extraordinary, Andrew. This is basically pure out-and-out racism. This is no surprise. This has been warned about for decades. If you go back 55 years ago, in fact, you had a politician, at the same time that the Beatles were making the White Album. In fact, I imagine Sadiq Khan would probably suggest that the Beatles' White Album now be renamed something else. But back at the same time, there was a politician called Enoch Powell in the Conservative Party, in the opposition. Labour were opening the floodgates to immigration, allowing more and more people from around the world to come and settle in Britain. Enoch Powell was a rising star or tipped to be a future Conservative Prime Minister. He made the mistake of wading into the race debate, and he made a speech which, sure, a lot of the language is definitely of its time, and now we kind of flinch at a few of the words, and there's certainly more than its fair share of hyperbole in there, and rivers of blood and Tiberius and so on.
Blood.
But the essential point, the rivers of blood, the essential point that Enoch Powell made back in 1968 was that if you had a combination of anti-discrimination legislation, which Labour were bringing in, plus a refusal to have proper integration of immigrants into whatever society, so a proper orderly integration, you can call it assimilation, call it what you will, but the basic idea being that the culture remains more or less the same, you bring people into it and they adapt to that culture. If you did not have those two conditions, you would be looking at a future of racial division, which could get very ugly indeed, in which white people would be, quote, strangers in their own land. Now, he was demonized. He was one of the first people to be cancelled in the modern era of cancel culture, thrown out of the Conservative Party. His name was Mud. In fact, funnily enough, the Beatles actually wrote the original lyrics of Get Back was a satirical take on the Rivers of Blood speech. He was demonized. His name was, never to be mentioned again, and so on. But he said that he had to speak up because he could foresee where the current policies would end up. His estimations of where Britain would be by 1985, then by 2000, and so on, were way under in terms of immigration quotas and so on. What has happened is we now have a complete inversion of the very racism that the left pretended to abhor. What we've now got, and it's really critical that people understand this, Andrew, the left don't want equality. They want an inversion of the power structure. The left want to get rid of the power structures of the old and replace them with a complete inversion, a new substitute power structure. The right believe equality means equality of opportunity for all, and we should all be equal. And Martin Luther King was right. Colour of skin should not even be a factor in any conversation. And this is what the modern left has done. They're the new racists.